We need to see something for what it is. Only then are you ready for true, healthy change. If I keep looking at something and trying to distort it, trying to make it over, and trying to repackage it, reframe it, refocus it, because what it is not acceptable, then all I'm doing is playing the game of manipulating illusions. And what we frequently do is what we feel uncomfortable about, that we can't change, we simply avoid, or we put a pretty face on it until one day we wake up and say, why am I doing this? Look at something for what it is. Just look at it. What is it? Visualize yourself standing over something and looking down at it, unattached to it. Now, what is it? What is it that I'm seeing? Why are these two nations fighting? Why are these people killing each other? Why are these people refusing to see if there's any virtue or value in what the other person has to share? When you're a part of either side, you can't do that because you can't see something for what it is. Whether it's the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, they can't see the value of each other. Or in Northern Ireland, or the Tutsis and the Hutu. Look at all the people who are in conflict, even Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and liberals. Think of all the different ways that we have excluded what could have helped us had we just been honest and said, see it for what it is. I don't have to attach to it. I merely want to see it and see if there's value in it. That's like listening non-judgmentally. What if I listen to someone without the need to correct them or to find fault with them? Just let them say what they have to say and I bear witness to what they're saying. Think if Dr. Lipton had had people around him at Stanford at the time when he said, it's not the gene, it is the milieu, it is the energy from the medium around it. What do you think would have happened to all of science from that day in the 1970s till now? We would have had some humanistic quantum leaps forward. That's the consequence of not listening non-judgmentally. That means in almost everything we listen as a reactionary. We're baited, we have minefields. Trouble is, no one knows where your minefield is. When you're talking with someone, you don't say, now you realize, if you say this, I'm going to react. If you do this, I'm going to react. No one knows this, do they? And then why'd you say that? And we react. We have thousands upon thousands of emotional minefields buried in our psyche. Instead of just clearing it all off by saying, whatever is said, I'm not going to react to it. I'm going to use reason. Then think of all the arguments we wouldn't have had. Think of all the problems of stressing ourselves we wouldn't have done. That's what happens when you clear out the minefields that have been planted throughout our life. Being free to be in the moment allows you to do that. Being present in the moment allows you to do that. If people write me an email and say hateful things, I just read it and delete it. Why? Because I know it's not about me. It's about them. Do you realize how many days I have had perfect days because I chose not to get upset about what someone said? And think how many times you've gotten upset because someone says something about you and you took it personally. You believed it. Now try to argue logically against something that is illogical. You can't do it, can you? And that's what we do. We try to bring reason and logic to something it's not instead of just surrendering it. Surrender the need to convince someone that you're a nice person. Surrender the need to prove that you're a happy person and a loving person. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. And yet, think how much time we do, where we live, the work we do, the earning capacity, where we send our kids. We're broadcasting right now from the Upper East Side of Manhattan. There's a lot of wealthy people in this neighborhood. Do you know how many of their kids are already at age 2 and 3 being prepared for the difficult tasks of life ahead and being taught different courses and being groomed? What's missing in that is being a kid. So who's this kid doing this for? Themselves and their future? Or for the insecurity of the parent? That's what happens when we react. We need to see something in a different way. And the way we do that is learn the lesson of your crisis. And in every crisis we have, there is a lesson. Let me give you an example. There is a woman I know who is approaching 40, and for the last year had a person staying with her who was in the kind of the peace movement, an activist. But this person was stressed and would frequently blow off the handle about, this person gives me no privacy and is very jealous in every place I go. This person wanted to know where I was. And then in the next breath would say, but this person, where would he go and what would he do if he left? And I said, well, why don't you just ask him what he intends to do with his life? And that really has nothing to do with your life. And what do you intend to do with your life? You're not having a relationship with him. He's the man who came to dinner. He just never leaves. And she says, I know, and then I started realizing this woman gets a lot of her sense of self by the people that she tries to take home and recover. She needs to be needed. Why? Because a lot of her belief was that her value as a human being is in who she can save. Yeah, but these people ask to be saved. And look at the results. Are they actually growing and changing? If you have someone staying with you for a year and you're taking yoga, meditation, and nature outings, and they're no different. Nothing, look carefully. They haven't changed in a year. They just got free room and board and a free meal and hanging out. But telling you about comrades, we must be against the establishment. Well, let them go out and be self-supportive. Because she's between two worlds. Anger at her loss of freedom and autonomy, and yet needing over here to show that she's caring and nurturing. But what are the results to her? Merely refortifying an old belief system. And for him, doesn't help him. He doesn't change. So what happens then is she looks at every person, every man, that she can only associate with a man if she has a deep, meaningful communication. And I said, well, these people want that? People ask for that? Someone come up and say, I can only speak with you if it's going to be a deep, meaningful conversation. If only you can show me you love me and care for me and want to be forever with me, can we have this conversation? Otherwise, you're using me, taking advantage of me. That's how our mind thinks. Imagine that. And as smart as this person is, she couldn't see that in herself. And when I just suggested, take a look at what you're really doing with these relationships and whose interest is it serving? All this yoga, all this meditation, all these retreats, at what point do you say, I've learned my lesson, let me go forward? Because you're right back to the beginning. Like a whole lot of effort, watching someone just work, and then you look and you take a real good look, and they're not moving. They're not going anywhere. Never get to the point where you confuse a person's efforts and the illusion of that effort with the reality of change. When a person's changing, it is effortless. Change is effortless. Holding back from change is the effort. Watch someone who's really changing. They are fluid and flowing. Watch the people who are trying to convince themselves in you that they want to change. They're huffing and puffing emotionally and spiritually and psychically and doing everything. They're just like in a supermarket, a spiritual supermarket. They have a big shopping basket and they're taking a little bit of D-Pack and Tony Robbins and they're going to take this and what's that and reach up there and get down there and throw it on the bag and they get out and they say, I've got everything in here. Do you realize how much I've done? I've done all this. Are you happy? No. Where's the next aisle? It's not about filling up from out there. It's about emptying out everything and realizing, stop trying to prove yourself. Flow, effort, let the energy flow. When energy flows, you're freeing yourself. Watch any great athlete. They move with such ease. And then watch the person's tight. They're slower. Another important area is when we learn the lesson of every one of our crises, then we can grow. Until you learn the lesson of your crisis, you will not grow. Until the doctor realizes that the idea and object of the exercise is not to treat the patient, but to heal the patient. Therapy is not healing. Therapy is a structured form of intellectual disciplines applied to a problem. As long as you're giving everything that you know is supposed to work, you feel you've done what you're supposed to do. And therefore you can live with yourself, even if every patient gets worse or dies. Healing is a completely different understanding. Healing says, let us look at the whole person. Let's look at what it is that's keeping them that way. If I have someone sitting in front of me who's grossly obese, I'm not at all interested in the fat that's on their body. I'm interested in the mindset that allowed that fat to get on the body. The mindset that has to be dealt with. It is the circumstances that are choices, because nobody gets that kind of weight accidentally. You don't get sick in most cases accidentally. You have to do something with either the intent or the negligence that allows it. People don't smoke because they want to die, but they die because they smoke. So where then is the person's sense of self when they're doing something knowing that there's a good possibility they're going to become ill from doing that? When a person is eating calories their body cannot use, foods that are allergic to them, and then taking medications that will not deal with the underlying cause, what allowed that mindset to continue that same illusion? Understand the way someone hurts themselves and why they hurt themselves, and then you learn the lesson. Any lesson you don't learn, you will repeat over and over again. The universe is good to us in that it gives us many lessons. Some are painful, but it also gives us a test with every lesson. And when we can pass the test because we've learned the lesson, then it's a lesson that will save us possibly from ever having to experience that again. Sometimes divorce, bankruptcy, separation, loss is the lesson we've been given. With the pain and suffering that comes with that, there's still a lesson to learn from that. We get angry when these things happen and don't look for how and why they happen. Just what happened and get me out of it. Think of the doctors who treat the patient trying to give a modality when the healing is not a part of the modality. So the patient doesn't understand what caused the illness or infirmary, what caused the problem, only the techniques involved in it.